Latest. Bill?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Live here in Hoboken here. Governor Cuomo earlier today said we don't know what happened. We don't know why. And they're trying to fill in that missing piece as to why now. The engineer listed in critical condition. Apparently, he is cooperating. Hoboken is the last stop on a 26-mile commute that starts way up the Hudson River on the west side in the state of New York. Hoboken is where 250 commuters had planned to disembark and continue their commute under the Hudson River into Manhattan for a day of work. It has gone like that every day of the week on schedule without interruption. But today something went terribly wrong. 4 cars being pushed by an engine. It was that force and drive of that last car, that engine, pushed those cars and these commuters into the concrete barrier, the terminal in Hoboken that shattered, as you saw, the concrete and steel and glass literally fall around all commuters who were on board. There was one woman from Hoboken. She was on the platform. She is the only known fatality so far. We believe that number will stay where it is. Witnesses describe this large sound like an explosion. Then inside, they're breaking glass to get out of the cars. And one woman said she didn't feel brakes at all being applied. And if that's the case, it was excessive speed coming into this station here. Governor Chris Christie twice today said there is no indication of anything but a tragic accident. NTSB is going to brief in about 30 minutes, and we'll have that live when it happens. Back to you guys now in the studio.
Thanks, Bill. We'll check back in with you later. Now to the presidential race. It was all over the news. Someone has a weight problem. Trump. He just can't wait to respond. After Hillary hit him on comments about a beauty queen, what did he do? First thing in the morning, rather than meet with his advisors to assess his performance, which would be smart, he grabbed the phone. Like a jilted ex, he went to air his side of the story to people who would listen. Except he did it on air, yakking more about the lady's weight. And so what could have ended Monday night stretches into today, and it proves how vital preparation really is. The lesson, Hillary's camp did their homework and knew what would stick in his mind. They found this beauty queen, lobbed it his way, and he swung right at it. Essentially, Hillary dug a hole and said, hey, Donald, here's a great hole to fall in. Now, we could list all the stuff we aren't talking about instead of this. It's so easy, I could make it rhyme. Economic crisis, the war on ISIS, decline of jobs, roving mobs, expanding automation, unbridled immigration, Obamacare, the Russian bear. But who's escaping pillory? Someone named Hillary. Yep, the more they talk about Donald, the less they talk about her. And to her credit, she turned Trump into her own best defender. Dana, from a communication standpoint, did he get played?
Yeah. I think, well, clearly, I think that she had that ready to go, whether it was perceived that she had won or lost the debate. Because had she been perceived respond, but driving each other's negatives down is really the only way for them to seemingly get ahead.
You know, Eric, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about how Hillary was preparing a psych workup of Trump, and he had the biographer or his ghostwriter there, and people wondered, is that really wise? It kind of helps, right, to know where the weak spots are.
Can I just take a little issue with that? She laid the trap. I don't think she laid the trap. I don't think what she did was skillfully turned it to her advantage. I think Lester Holt offered the trap when he said, Mr. Trump, remember all these pressing things that you very eloquently outlined, things that are important going on in the country, and we're talking about his tax returns, we're talking about birth certificates. And then he said at one point late in the debate, he says, hey, Mr. Trump, what about when you took issue with the way she looks? Does she look presidential? I mean, that was the question that Lester Holt offered to Trump, where he made a comment, and then she turned it and said something like, yeah, we're talking about looks. Here's what I know about looks. Remember when you said this? So she was skillful in turning it into getting that talking point out there, and then I guess he bid on it or whatever. Who knows if he did or not. again, I think that there was probably no place for that in that debate. I just didn't see that the reason for that to be one of the buckets.
He calls in, he calls in the next morning to people he will listen to him and not come after him, when he should maybe just let it die, Kimberly, let it go.
Yeah, let it go, or say really appreciate and, love the Miss Universe program and the pageant. We've had some incredible women that have represented the country and their country so well, and kind of like leave it at that.
And then add, that being the commander-in-chief is very different, Lester, to being the head of the Miss Universe pageant. I love that opportunity. That was great, but I'm focused on being president of the United States. Boom, done.
Let's get back to the relevant questions.
Juan, I still think Hillary set this whole thing up.
I don't think there's any question. I think she had the beauty queen in the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't think there's any question.
That was a coincidence.
Oh, was that right? I see it. No, I don't think there's much doubt about it. And I think that Donald Trump is a guy that can't resist a feud. So it's the Khans, it's Rosie O'Donnell, it's the Mexican, the judge, Indiana judge from Mexican heritage. He just loves to fight. He's a schoolyard bully. That's what he likes to do. But to me, this is so amazing. The idea that he would have called her Miss Housekeeping because she's of Latina heritage, what are you doing? And then the whole business about going back after Rosie O'Donnell, or as Dana mentioned, Newt Gingrich and Rudy Giuliani getting into this, like, oh yeah, we're perfect. Or Trump saying she's no Mother Teresa. I mean, really, is Hillary Clinton's camp writing his lines? I mean, it makes you think, people come up to me sometimes and say, oh, I think Trump was put in this by Hillary so that the Democrats, I'm like, you're kidding. But now I'm like, maybe.
No, it's just, if he just needs to prepare. He needs to steal a page from her playbook for the next debate. That's what this is about. This is about how do you prepare for the next debate. And the next question is, he keeps hinting at bringing up Bill Clinton's sex scandals. Do you think that's fair game?
Well, I think that from their perspective, that would be. I think it's not helpful for the country in the future. And like millennials are thinking, wait, what are they talking about? This was 30 years ago. But she brought it up. She served up the ball. He'll want to hit it. I don't know if it would be smart or not to do that. But she does have some things that she has said in the past about the women that were involved with Bill Clinton. I mean, to me, yeah, that's fair game. But the thing is, she has answered those questions a lot over the years, so she's kind of practiced at it. Whether you agree with the answers or not, she does know how to answer them.
But Eric, we see these celebrity feminists come out and defend Hillary to the hilt, but they never talk about Juanita Broaddrick or anybody else. So shouldn't they be brought up if you're going to champion Hillary's feminism? Isn't it right to bring up that stuff?
And both things happened 20 years ago. I mean, coincidentally, 22 years ago, with Bill Clinton's, and this Miss Universe thing happened 20 years ago. Look, here we are, day 3, and we're still talking about it. I guess speculating on whether he could. Look, if I'm with the Trump camp prepping them, say if they want to bring that stuff up again, then they've been warned.
Well, it becomes relevant. You can make a turn on it if she brings it up and discusses how he treats women. And then you say, well, actually, look at what you've done to women and how you have made excuses for your husband, and look at the women who you said horrible things about that made accusations against your husband. So he can turn it on that way and do it while it's still done in a tasteful way, but also kind of pointing out the hypocrisy of her statement of saying that she is on far higher ground than he is on these subject matters. And then it becomes like a race to the end or the finish. But nevertheless, that's where it would slightly become relevant as just sort of a counter attack against her.
Juan, they both have the similar flaws, don't they? I mean, there's
no.
You disagree?
I'm very curious to hear such smart people say, oh yeah, he fell into a trap the first time, and then advise him to fall into the trap again.
I didn't advise him.
Oh my God, because if he brings up this stuff about Bill Clinton's philandering and affairs and even allegations of rape, this stuff is all tested. We know what American women think. You know what American women think? It's beyond me because I screw up with women all the time. But
Tell us about American women, Juan.
I'm telling you, this is tested. And what it says is that people say, you know what, Hillary Clinton kept her marriage together, and it's not her fault if her husband is a wacky guy who is abusive, whatever. That's his problem. And you shouldn't immediately connect it to her and blame her and make it a political baggage
you
for her.
only connect it to her as it relates to her comments and conduct.
That's
and
fine.
not
People
his.
say she's defending her family, she's defending her marriage, and people admire the idea she's been married 40 years versus a guy who's bringing cameras in to watch Miss Universe work out to embarrass and shame her because she's put on some weight.
I do think that so the next presidential debate is October 9th. It's a Sunday. We will have a live show right here, the 5. We'll be here.
You sound thrilled by this.
I am. It'll be fun because what else we're going to do? We're going to be working at home or we could be working here. But if on October 10th and October 10th, 11th and October 12th, we are still talking about infidelity in either of their marriages, I think that would be considered a failure for both campaigns. Trump's best attacks on her are about that she was an elitist, she's tied to Washington, she has a shady foundation, she did terrible things for the country. That's where he should hope to be able to be talking about. That's the kind of ground he should fight on in those next
Plus,
weeks.
the media, we're suckers for this stuff. It's just more interesting than policy.
I love policy, though.
Yeah, but you're you know,
I'm
you like policy. I was going to say something else, but I already called you Lisa Simpson yesterday.
that I'm a ratings downer.
No. Policy wonk is
A
what
policy wonk is what I wanted. But we go for, this is catnip, political catnip. All right, Trump's got a new catchphrase. I didn't know this. A new catchphrase to attack Clinton. You'll hear it next.
Donald Trump is rolling out a new line of attack to convince voters Hillary Clinton is not fit for the job.
Everything you need to know about Hillary Clinton, sometimes referred to as Crooked Hillary, can be understood with a simple but very important phrase: follow the money. The Wall Street investors who have rigged the regulations against the middle class, they're donating to Hillary Clinton. Follow the money. She put the office of Secretary of State up for sale. And if she ever got the chance, she'd put the Oval Office up for sale, too.
KG, that phrase, it kind of rings a bell.
I knew a guy one time that had a show called Follow the Money on FBN. Look, it's a great phrase. As Greg has told us, this is a phrase that's been around for a long time. But, you know, it does resonate. When you say that, follow the money, follow the trail. We've talked about it as it relates to national security, et cetera. When you talk about follow the money trail, how is ISIS funding itself? Okay, how do the Clintons fund themselves? They never met other people's money they didn't like. Look at the Clinton Foundation, and now he's making that tie-in to say, okay, will they allow influence peddling as well if she gets back in the White House? It's that type of connection that they're trying to make, to say corruption, undue influence, selling the office to the highest bidder in terms of access. And we saw that when she was Secretary of State, that 60 people got meetings that in fact gave money to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah. Dana, and there's somewhere around 100. If you go to the Clinton Foundation website, you can look up names and whatnot, and so say a range of what they donated. And Trump points out somewhere around $100 million came into the Clinton Foundation from Wall Street.
Yeah, so I think I said in the A block that on October 9th, 10th, and 11th, this should be what he should be talking about. I think that follow the money is a much better chant phrase for the crowds at Trump's rallies than lock her up, which is what they started chanting at the rally today. I think this would be a much better place to try to get Bernie bros. Remember, like, they don't like this kind of thing at all. But I also think that turnabout is fair play, and that one of the things that Hillary Clinton can turn around and say, we'd love to follow the money, but you won't release your taxes, and you get back and talking on that ground. So it's a little bit fraught with peril.
Greg, do you like this little vein he's going up?
I think it's always good to stick to get away from the prurient and go for this stuff. But he's doing it in front of an audience that already likes it. Like, he's got it. It's like it's almost like therapy. You know, he finds a comfort zone, and this is something that he should have done really hard in the debate with specifics and done this kind of stuff. This stuff, he already knows these people like him. He needs to convince voters and not already convince the apostles.
I will point out that the networks broke away from commercial to take this speech when he rolled out the Follow the Money new name, new line of attack. You like it?
I think the networks love Donald Trump. I mean, he is a ratings grabber. Everybody likes to watch Donald Trump, even if you're not planning to vote for him. He is just so entertaining. But do I think that this is going to be a winner? No, I think Dana gave my response, which is that you can imagine Hillary Clinton sitting there and saying, oh, So what about your taxes, Mr. Trump? What about the people that you stiffed and never paid? You want to follow some money?
Right.
Let's talk about these issues. So the debate was a disaster. I mean, it was just terrible. I mean, and the polls now that have come out have made it clear. Republicans, I know around here at this network, sometimes people don't want to say he lost, but I'm telling you, it's not a question anymore.
But the polls haven't really moved. The
polls,
no,
polls?
Well,
Come
okay.
on.
All right. Well, there was the LA Times tracking poll has him higher than prior to the debate, but that's okay. One point something out. Trump, release your taxes. Should he do it before the election?
Well, he made the call to Hillary, called her out and said, I'll release my taxes if you release your emails. You know, the 33,000 that you deleted and didn't turn
on. Bleach bitted.
Right. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Bleach is effective.
Bleach
so
is.
Then he made that deal, right? So, but she's not going to do that. So then he's going to say he's not unilaterally going to do it because he's already sticking by his story.
See, I wish he would have said, rather than the 33,000 emails, I wish he would have said along the same lines, the money, speaking of following the money.
Wall Street speeches.
Yeah, let me see the transcripts of those Wall Street speeches. I want to know what you told Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Citibank, who he loaned hundreds of billions of dollars to bail them out. What are you telling them, and what are you going to tell them going forward? Anybody? No? All right,
I think that's a good one. That's why I said it. Yeah.
I just think I think the taxes part is an interesting one. I mean, just looking to the future of presidential candidates, I don't think it's a good idea to normalize the concept that you can get out of releasing your taxes, because it is an official government document. It is what candidates have done. It informs a lot of Americans, both Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Green Party, whoever. I don't think it's a good idea to normalize that behavior, and I think he should release his taxes.
All right. We good? Good to go. Last night, a Gold Star mom confronted President Obama on why he still won't use the term Islamic terrorism. His stunning response coming up.
Tina Houchin's son gave his life while fighting radical Islamist terrorism for this country. Last night, the Gold Star mom asked an important question directly to the president. If terrorists link their acts to Islam, why won't he call it Islamic terror? Here was his answer.
What I have been careful about when I describe these issues is to make sure that we do not lump these murderers into the billion Muslims that exist around the world, including in this country, who are peaceful, who are responsible, who in this country are our fellow troops and police officers and firefighters and teachers and neighbors and friends.
Then the president took a veiled swipe at Donald Trump for using the language that he won't.
The danger is where we get loose in this language, particularly when a president or people aspiring to become president get loose with this language. You can see in some of the language that we've in talking about Muslim Americans here, and the notion that somehow we'd start having religious tests and who can come in the country and who's investigated and whether the Bill of Rights applies to them in the same way. That's a slippery slope.
Slippery slope. All right, Greg, what do you make of it?
You know what gets me about this? He thinks so little of us as a country that we aren't actually doing the lumping of people. We are actually doing the differentiating. We're saying radical Islam is part of Islam. We are not doing the lumping. He's actually doing the lumping by not differentiating. And it's a willful blindness that's becoming like legitimately real blindness. If a doctor is treating cancer, he's not going to call it indigestion. You know, you got to know what it is. And radical Islam is a cancer within Islam. That is not lumping. That's distinguishing. And he refuses to do that. He's the lumper.
He's weakening our immune system.
You didn't hear the dog whistle in that?
No.
You didn't? Did you hear when he said we can't lump the billion Muslims around the world that are peaceful, God, whatever, loving Muslims? There are 1.2 billion Muslims. He's calling 200 million Muslims not peaceful. Maybe those are the Islamists he's talking about. Did you get that?
No.
You didn't get that?
I mean, no, actually, I get it.
You don't believe it? You're not buying it?
I'm not buying it.
That's all I got.
I was like, all right, dog
Nice try,
whistle. Dog whistle. All right, what would Jasper say? Dog whistle. Okay.
Well, it sort of feels like I don't understand what President Obama is protesting. Because at this point, it feels like we are angels dancing on the head of a pin. And the argument seems so false to me, but he clings to his argument so much because he wants to be right when feels like we all kind of agree, but we all keep going around each other, but you won't say radical Islam. Just because you say radical Islam does not mean that you think those people are not peaceful Muslims. But I'm sure that he has been told early on in the administration by the intelligence community and probably the State Department that it would be unhelpful to American interests abroad if the United States was seen to be lumping all Muslims together as terrorists. But I'm sure that's what he's thinking.
But we don't. That's the thing.
I know that. I agree with your argument. That's why I'm saying I think that this is a stupid argument.
Yeah, I mean, that was not a good moment for President Obama, who, generally speaking, is an eloquent man. I don't think that's winning him any hearts and minds, Juan.
Sure won mine. I thought he was quite eloquent. I mean, to me, the part that he said that was really impressive was he said, listen, when you talk to people who are Muslim, and they hear us, especially the President of the United States, using language talking about radical Islamic terror, they feel personally as if you're talking about all of Islam. So it's not about what we think, Greg, it's about how the rest of the world would perceive our President speaking to them as the leader of the free world, engaged in a war against terrorism that requires us to rely on our Muslim allies.
And I think we do. We do rely on our allies, but we shouldn't worry about how the world perceives us.
And coddle the allies.
Yeah.
I think it's important that you have to respect your allies. Why would they cooperate with you if you disrespect them?
Because their feelings are hurt?
No.
Feelings,
we have
not
people
feelings.
dying.
No, it's not a matter of feelings. If you have 1 billion Muslims in the world, you know what? You don't want to start a fight with
I think
1
they're
billion
smart
people.
enough to know that we're differentiating.
Yeah, I think so. And by the way, they are subjected to the same acts of radical Islamic terrorism. And believe me, they know it, and they're not afraid to say it. So this is all conjured up in Obama's head. Switching gears to something that's never happened in the history of Obama's presidency. It's not golf. Yesterday, Congress successfully overrode the president's veto of the 9/11 bill that allows families to sue Saudi Arabia for any role in the attacks. The president is very disappointed.
Well, I think it was a mistake. And I understand why it happened. It's a dangerous precedent, and it's an example of why sometimes you have to do what's hard. And frankly, I wish Congress here had done what's hard. I didn't expect it, because voting, if you're perceived as voting against 9/11 families right before an election, not surprisingly, that's a hard vote for people to take. But it would have been the right thing to do.
The bill is now law, and our defense chief warns it could have a devastating impact on our military. So, Dana, how do you assess this situation?
Well, I do think that I think the president's right. And it's hard for me to say that. I have friends, we all have friends that lost loved ones in the attacks. And so it's not easy to say that, but I do think that former Attorney General Michael Mukasey makes President Obama's case very effectively.
And he did
when he
today
talks
on
about
this
that.
channel.
Oh, was he on the channel?
Yes, he was.
That to have foreign governments conflate what terrorists do to what we do. We know that Spain, Belgium, Italy, they have tried to bring lawsuits against our intelligence community and our military for things that they think we have done that is wrong. And sovereign immunity has protected those Americans. I do think that President Obama and the White House legislative team probably deserves some of the blame here, because they talked about this way too late. They thought that they would be able to handle it. They got away from them, and now they have this situation on their hand. Not only is it embarrassing for the president, but as the Secretary of Defense said, it also could be very damaging to the United States. But I guess we'll see how it goes.
Eric, you have friends and people that you were very close to, and you were down there for 9/11. I know it's very personal to you. How do you feel about this?
I think it goes beyond that, though. I like the idea of being able to sue, just because I like more transparency. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what all the facts are, all the evidence. Some of the stuff is hidden. The evidence is hidden under the sovereign immunity laws, and I'd like to see it more transparent, more open. And I'm trying to just tell us what the risk is, like, to the military. I honestly, I'm being serious. I don't understand
Okay, so
how
for
we
example,
open ourselves up to more risk.
Okay, so for example, during the war on terror, let's say there was an interrogation that happened overseas, and it was one that when it became known to the public that it was happening overseas and that we were having cooperation with governments, just say it's country X, and country X gets embarrassed and politically, domestically, they look like they're in trouble. So what they then tried to do was to interrogate, basically, and hold American citizens who were doing the interrogation work that was legal and allowed for them to do, but then they tried to change the law. because of sovereign immunity, you were able to get those Americans back onto U.S. soil and to keep them safe from those lawsuits?
It's our agents. I mean, it's our agents who are over there
the intelligence
looking,
communities.
yeah, working for us. If they break a law all of a sudden, hey, they're subject, our government is subject to lawsuit. If we are using the drones, for example, and some country says, oh, you know what, you destroyed property, you killed some civilians, all of a sudden, they're, and not only that.
Because they all have different
laws. The heart
laws.
of this story really is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, Bob Corker, all saying, listen, you know, we had to do this, but we know it was wrong.
Right. That's,
what?
I know.
Holy smokes. Talk about political cowardice in America tonight. That's, you know, you like conspiracies. This is not a conspiracy. This is pure political cowardice.
So, okay, so therefore, where do you stand on the NSA?
On the, what do you mean?
On the NSA. Did they break the law? Are they being unconstitutional, or were they when they were data mining innocent Americans?
Of course. What do you mean? We don't like that. We can have a constitutional argument, but that's not relevant to this. When you have GE, Dow Chemical, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the CIA director saying this harms American interests, there's no way. All you're doing is saying it's politically popular because everybody's sympathetic to the families, but it's not realistic in terms of our national interests.
Sorry, I got to get Greg in here.
The argument is the bill risks cooperation in terms of security with a military ally. I just spent the first, 2 minutes of this segment just bashing President Obama over his cowardice over using the phrase radical Islam. I think he might have a point here, especially when 30 senators, after overriding the veto, 30 senators sent a letter to alleviate the consequences of the legislation. So the people that actually vetoed it are going, there's some serious problems here. So I guess what I'm saying is this is the most complicated issue that we've ever talked about, I think, because you have true suffering from the victims of 9/11. These families are true suffering, and you have this bill that could lead to more suffering abroad. And we have to sit there and you have to think about there's a political answer and there's a moral answer. What the hell do you do?
Right.
And you're doing it in 4 minutes on a cable show.
Yes, and guess what? And you're potentially compromising the ability for the intel community to be able to gather intelligence to prevent another 9/11.
Thank you.
Complicated. Prepare yourself.
It baffles me that you can have this opinion on this issue and the opposite opinion with the NSA issue. It's just
Commercial break, we're going to go over that.
The election now 40 days away, and it's not looking good for Libertarian nominee Gary Johnson. Fresh off his What is Aleppo disaster, Johnson drew another on-air blank yesterday. This one sort of dumbfounding, even more so than the last.
Who's your favorite foreign leader?
Who's my favorite?
Just name anywhere in the country, any one of the continents, any country. Name one foreign leader that you respect and look up to, buddy.
I guess I'm having an Aleppo moment in the former president of Mexico.
But I'm giving you the whole world.
I know.
Anybody in the world you like.
The former president of Mexico.
Which one?
I'm having a brain.
Name anybody.
Fox.
Oh, boy. In another attempt to reverse the damage, Johnson tweeted today, and here I'm quoting. I'm not making this up. It's been almost 24 hours, and I still can't come up with a foreign leader I look up to.
Yeah, there are no words.
Okay, I don't know.
There are words.
Like when he was here and I was speechless. When I asked him a few questions about national security and foreign policy, and it was just, I mean, wow. I couldn't even believe it.
What do you got to say?
I feel for William Weld. You know, he's like the good cop that's saddled with a crazy partner, or he's the spouse with an obnoxious husband who embarrasses you at parties. And also, Gary cannot say he had an Aleppo moment. That's for other people to say because he had the Aleppo moment. You follow me?
But why did he tweet that tweet? I mean, so okay. When I saw this at first, I thought, people are just kind of jumping on Gary Johnson because, I mean, okay, not every American's going to know the name of every great foreign leader. Give him a break. But then to tweet again that I celebrate my stupidity and ignorance and error, I don't get it, Dana.
Well, there is no mercy rule in presidential politics, though I think that the Libertarians would want one for this year. I feel bad for Libertarians. Yeah. I think they have a lot of good arguments to make. Yeah. This was a year when they could have really had an impact.
Yeah.
What a wasted candidate.
Yeah,
wasted, literally.
Well, what did I tell you earlier? Something's not right.
I like him very much, but he does seem to have this cavalier attitude that he doesn't really care. He's like the honey badger of presidential candidates.
But honey badgers are tenacious and ultimately attain their target, despite being stung 1,000 times, and they come back to life, which I kind of admire.
True.
That ain't this guy.
So, Eric, yesterday we were talking about millennials being a problem with Hillary Clinton. In fact, about a third of people 18 to about 34 say they would vote for Gary Johnson.
Yeah, about a third. Yeah, and that's the problem. The millennials, the protest vote, they call it, and it's been Johnson and Stein. And as these Aleppo moments, by the way, I think the tweet was supposed to be funny, tongue-in-cheek, like, I still don't care if I'm someone that I can look up to, part of it, even though he was deer in the headlights.
Hashtag sarcasm.
He was deer in the headlights, clearly. The sad part is, look, in 2008, 49% of millennials turned out to vote. In 2012, 41% turned out to vote. Now they're saying these two candidates, Hillary and Donald Trump, are uninspiring. That number could drop below 40, 35%. I mean, the millennial as a voting bloc is becoming less and less important.
Couldn't he have picked like one of the former leaders or somebody from Mexico?
He didn't have it.
I mean,
that's
it's
so
scary.
He didn't have it in his pocket.
Well,
I mean,
this is what I'm saying, and you guys want to be like, smoke some marijuana. It doesn't work out so well, does it? That's what I'm telling you.
Well, you can't blame weed for the fact that the guy who's running for president can't name one foreign leader.
And where's his campaign? Up in smoke.
You should have said 2 liters of Mountain Dew.
Wow.
Wow, but wow.
Next.
This is the week of no preparation, fellas. Come on. Next, we return to the scene of today's deadly train crash outside New York City. The latest developments from Bill Hemmer, straight ahead.
We want to go back now to the deadly train crash this morning outside New York City at the height of the morning rush hour at one of the busiest transportation hubs in the Northeast. One person was killed, and we are now learning at least 114 are hurt. The NTSB just announced that the engineer has been released from the hospital. Bill Hemmer has been at the scene all day. He is here with us from Hoboken, New Jersey. Bill, as the day wraps up, any observations about how many people are injured? The number has gone up from 108 to now 114.
I think the best news about all that, Dana, is that there were dozens and dozens who were considered walk-ins to the medical center here in Hoboken, and many of them have been released, and they'll be spending the evening with their family at home tonight. That's quite remarkable when you look at the extent of damage on some of the pictures and images we've been showing you. I think 2 significant developments just a couple minutes ago. Number one, about the engineer. 4 hours ago, the New Jersey Governor Chris Christie said he was in critical condition, cooperating but in critical condition, and now we learn confirmation from the NTSB just moments ago that that engineer's been released from the hospital, and he will be set to be interviewed, at what point we don't know, by the NTSB. Wow, what a recovery for him. The other bit of news, there are recording devices on the locomotive. There are recording devices on the front car as well, where that first car left the track and went airborne, as witnesses have described. They will be looking at them very closely to try and find answers to this. And speed is clearly an issue. Why it was going so fast, we don't know, Dana.
All right, Eric Bolling.
Bill, very quickly, do we have any information on that engineer beyond his status right now with the hospital? In other words, do we have his health history or his safety history?
We do not, Eric. Great questions on both. That has not been nailed down. Frankly, look, we're 7 or 8 hours into this right now. The NTSB has been a little tight with the information. You can understand that. The mayor here in Hoboken, she first came to office in 2009. So that was right around the time when Sully landed the U.S. air flight just off the east shore of Hoboken. She said at that point it took weeks to give the public answers, and already just a moment ago the NTSB said they'll be on site for 7 to 10 days. As to his history, we don't have it yet. There's some rumors about his name out there, but we haven't nailed that down, Eric.
All right, Kimberly, one last question.
Yeah, I got to follow up real quick on that. Is just that they do any kind of preliminary questioning, because I think that's such like an information-rich environment, and if he's in a good enough condition to walk out of the hospital, they should make him stay, so to speak, and question him, whether it's in a side room there or not, because you're wasting valuable opportunity and time.
The only way I can answer that, Christie, is, Kimberly, rather, is that Governor Christie said twice today that this looks like nothing more than a tragic accident. He stressed that on 2 occasions, so I don't know what information he has, but that's the way he characterized it.
All right. All right, thank you, Bill. We will have one more thing up next.
One more thing, starting with Dana.
I love this story. I love a small world experience. So this morning at the American Gas Supply Association meeting, they were about to introduce the charity that they help. It's called Rise and Conquer, Adaptive Sports Center Rise and Conquer program. It's in Crested Butte, Colorado. I was like, wow, this helps wounded warriors relearn how to use their bodies if they've sacrificed a limb. That's amazing. And it's in Crested Butte, Colorado. This is great. Then at the meeting, they have a young man who stands up. He's a wounded warrior. He was injured in May of 2008, and he's blind. And he starts talking, and he says that what happened to him was, imagine that it was a beautiful day weather-wise in Iraq. He was protecting the brigadier general. The sky's blue, the desert's tan. All of a sudden, he is now blind. And that what helps him is doing these sports, and that moving is living and living is moving. And I thought, I know that guy. We know that guy. Remember this?
Living is moving for me, and
okay.
So moving's living, and the world's still. I stare into a still world, and I could complain and dwell on staring into darkness. It's really important to just keep moving forward and do something with your life. The more you experience, I think the more chances you have at finding something you really would enjoy.
Now, Steve Vasquez, and so he does all sorts of sports. He was mountain bike riding is a thing that he loves. He loves to go on the jumps, and so congratulations to him for keeping us all inspired.
Yes.
He's an amazing, amazing guy.
Yeah.
All right, Kimberly.
All right, so today is National Coffee Day. So where to get a free cup of coffee or cup of joe in New York City? Now, mine is from Krispy Kreme, of course, because I love a good deal, and they were offering a free donut in addition to the coffee. All right, but I didn't want to be a big party pig. Oh, yeah, I forgot food court, blah, 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 whatever. But, so we got something for the rest of our co-hosts. Dana, green tea, but Greg says he's switching because he has gastrointestinal issues.
No, diner coffee.
Oh, diner coffee is Greg, but you're switching to green tea. Bowling Cafe Americano, of course.
Hot and black.
Juan black coffee.
Americano without Eric.
Juan, perfect. And with cinnamon. Black with cinnamon.
I love it.
That is you, with a little bit
Really?
of spice.
Coffee
and
with
then
cinnamon?
Dana, what yours is
I just
the
had green tea. Thank you.
All right, so I just want to say thank you for our free coffees. Actually, I think we paid for Starbucks. There you go. They support Hillary Clinton.
We just do these food courts to get free food. We're that cheap. We're cheap people.
We're strategic.
All right. So last night, the Five and staff went to the Yankees game. You won't see Greg because he was bored and fell asleep on the floor. He doesn't like baseball. Dana was busy on the phone with Megyn Kelly all night Skyping. Eric was actually playing for the Yankees. And KG, she was busy autographs for the players. But here, the rest of us had a great time. Here are some of the producers, Allie, Amanda, and Emily, looking lovely. And here I am with Mina, who's Eric's producer.
Yay, Mina.
And here's our executive producer, Porter, with Susan, one of our producers, smiling and looking so happy. It was a great night. Great ending for the Yankees, by the way. Mark Teixeira, grand slam, bottom of the ninth, to not only win the game, but keep the Yankees' postseason hopes alive.
God, I love a grand slam.
Eric.
All right, go very
Not the
quickly.
breakfast.
Love these whiteboards at the end of the show. A little politics for you. Key demographics for this election. Key one, Hispanics. Here's why. Check it out. 57 million documented Hispanics in America. That's 27 million voters. How about this? They're the youngest race ethnicity in America at 28 years old. Average in America is 37 years old, a clear decade younger. Very religious. 55% Catholic, 21+% Protestant, but this one right here. Did you know this? Business. They're very, very business oriented. 30% of all new startup businesses in America, Hispanic. 30%.
That's why you should support immigration.
Massive. That's why every policy that these candidates should be focusing on, if you want this vote, is business related. And this one, 4 million Hispanic businesses owned in America, up 57% in the last 9 years alone.
Great job.
Stay right on that.
You should
demographic.
mention this to Trump for me one day.
All right, let's do this real quick.
Greg,
You can just skip my thing. Roll this video. Not that.
Greg's birthday news.
Yes. That's why I said skip it. So they're singing happy birthday. You know what his birthday